Welcome to Over 40, Fabulous and Pregnant. I am your host, Jamie Massey, and you're listening to episode 86. If you are looking for pregnancy stories of women over 40, you've come to the right place. And today on the show, we have Lorraine on to share her pregnancy journey at 44. In this show, she shares the loss of a fiancé while they were trying to have a baby and working through her grief. In the middle of her IVF journey later on, she got breast cancer, which she was on the same medication that Katie was on in episode 83. And so it's kind of really interesting how they were on the same medications, but their journeys are a little different. And then because they opened her up like a C-section to remove many, many fibroids, a C-section was always in her plan. And it's just one of those stories with so much struggle and yet has a great happy ending. I know you're going to really like this one. And today's listener feedback comes from Kendra. Kendra says, "So incredibly excited for you. I've been following your podcast since January when I decided to go the donor egg route myself. I have been through quite the whirlwind experience. On my second donor right now and waiting for PGT results to come back. Sending you all the positive vibes and blessings for a wonderful remainder of pregnancy and birth." And Kendra, right back at you, girl. Congrats on all of your embryos and wishing you amazing results. I can't wait to hear your good news. And Kendra later told me that she is not only using egg donor eggs, but she also used her own eggs, like way to hedge your bets. I've never heard of this, but why the heck not? Like, why not do both and go for the best results? Like, that's so amazing. And please keep us updated. And for my pregnancy updates, I am 34 weeks pregnant and feeling it. Oh my gosh. His movements are getting so strong. Some of them hurt, and others he just presses straight on my bladder, and I am heading, or really more like running, straight to the bathroom. I also started the hypnobirthing class. This one is by Positive Birth Company, I think. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So really it's on Teachable. It's a video one, and I'm really enjoying it. It gets into a lot of science and how the muscles work and the mechanics of birth, and I'm really liking it. I'm only about halfway through it though. And last night I opened the back door to my back seat and I see the car seat base and the mirror was already installed. And I just look at my husband funny, like, when did you do this? Apparently it has been there for about a week. Kind of wild, but my husband thinks I should already be packing a bag, but I still think it's a little early. Anywho, things are definitely moving forward around here. And this coming week, it's kind of crazy, but I have 4 appointments. I have a chiropractor, a dentist, because heck, let's get that out of the way before he comes. And then we have a midwife appointment with a sonogram appointment. And then we are touring the hospital. It stresses me a little bit out to leave work this much, but I'm afraid there's just not much we can do about it. But I'm getting really excited. And with that, let's get into Lorraine's pregnancy story. Lorraine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. Really am.
And she is sharing her story at 44. But before we get started, will you share a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. My name's Lorraine. I was born and raised in Azusa, California, Southern California area. Yeah, I struggled with infertility for a really long time, and I've had a lot of obstacles to get to motherhood. Thankfully, I'm here now with a 15-month-old healthy boy.
Awesome. And you are actually coming to the podcast through Shirley, which is super fun. I love that. We were talking before we started recording about where to start your story. And I think it's with your previous husband. Would you like to start there?
Yes, I can do that. Actually, we weren't married, just to clarify.
Oh,
We were
okay.
engaged. That's okay. We were engaged, and through my 30s, I was always kind of struggling. Not struggling, but I knew there was something not quite working. Not that we were actively trying to conceive, but I just realized, I was getting towards my mid 30s, and I thought something's not working. And unfortunately, he passed away after an 11-month battle with colon cancer.
Mm.
So it was a really tough time, and it was a really tough position to be in when you know that you're losing somebody you love, you're watching them struggle, and to just put everything else on every back burner that you have to support somebody through something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 41 at the time he lost his battle. We were engaged and living together at the time. And, it was just horrible. Cancer it's just something that I never thought that I could be strong enough, but you figure it out and you just do everything. Your life just changes. And yeah, he struggled with for 11 months and he lost his battle. And at that point, we had actually gone to one visit before he was diagnosed. We had done one visit to an infertility place to just kind of get a consultation.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, everything changed. So after I lost him, you go through a lot in grief. And I'm always open to talk to women about grief because it takes so many different forms.
Mm-hmm.
Grief does. It's not just being sad and feeling lonely. You go through anger and guilt, and you go through, you make bad choices and you just do things that you never thought. It's just grief is like this backwards, forwards, upside down life.
Yeah, it's really complicated.
It is. It's really complicated. So I was 38 at the time. He passed, and I took some time, of course, and I met my now husband when it was like 2 years later. I think I was 37 when I lost him because I met Adam 2.5 years later, and I was not quite 40. So I met Adam, and it was just a very this is it. We clicked right away. And he was 5 years older than me, and neither of us had children yet. So I always knew motherhood was, in the cards for me. I was getting, a feeling more like the window was closing. And
because of your age?
Because of my age. Mm-hmm. Getting close to 40. And so at 40, I had that discussion with Adam, and I said, we might need to do some infertility treatments if you want to have a family. And he was actually on board right away. I think we were together about a year, and we decided to retrieve some embryos, go through IVF. Mm-hmm. So we did that. And in 2018, we got 10 embryos, I want to say.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, only 3 went to
a blast?
Yes.
Okay.
So we got 10 originally, and 3 made it. And so what we did was, and I'm sure you're aware of the process of having them tested, right? To test for Down syndrome, etc. So that's a big out-of-pocket expense. You probably know, but we decided to do it, and we had some family all come together and help us with the funds to do that. And we got them tested. Yeah, we got them tested, and and those three, so with the testing, you find out the sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we knew we had the two boys and one girl. So at that time, we were very excited to move forward. And my fertility doctor said, with your fibroids, I'm a little nervous about doing a transfer. I don't feel like you would have could have a successful pregnancy unless we remove these fibroids. And so he said, I recommend we take them out, let your uterus heal for 6 months, and then do an IVF transfer. I said, okay, I'm up for whatever is cost, what the best outcome could be.
Wait, would you not worried about waiting the 6 months? Because that would be the first thing in my head.
I really trusted what he was telling
Okay.
me. And I just said, let's do it, because he saw quite a few. And so in January of 2019, I had the uterine fibroid removal surgery where they actually open you up. It's kind of it's a C-section, and they opened me up from, it was just exactly like a C-section scar, and they took out 12 fibroids, all different sizes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
So they did that and put me back together. And then while I was healing, that's when we decided we'd get married. So we planned a wedding. And in the fall of 2019, we put together the wedding. We went and got married, and we thought to ourselves, okay, when we get back from our honeymoon, we are going to do the transfer. And we were really, really excited. And we went to Hawaii for our honeymoon. And I got off the plane knowing that, oh, sorry, I'm going to back up a bit because this has to do with my mammogram. So right towards the end of the year, I always would get my go to the eye doctor, go get my mammogram, go get my teeth done. I always kind of did all my health stuff towards the end of the year. So I was putting all these things together, but I was also planning a wedding. I was really busy. Got this letter in the mail that said, don't forget, it's time for your mammogram. And I really honestly could have just ignored it because I was so busy and things were so crazy. And as you know, probably, all women know it's nuts putting together a wedding. So but I didn't ignore it. And I'm so thankful because I went in for a typical mammogram right before I got married. And they called me back and they said, we saw something, we need to take a look. And okay, that's happened before and it was fine. So I went back, and right before I flew out to my honeymoon, they said, when you get back, you need to come back and we're going to do a biopsy. So of course I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want anybody to worry during my, beautiful wedding. I didn't want my mom or anyone to just be freaked out about what was a possibility for something bad. And so we did have a wonderful wedding. And I was at my honeymoon thinking, oh, when I get back, I gotta do this biopsy. So I flew back, and I remember coming back on a Monday. We flew in on a Monday morning, and I went in that same day when I came back. That same afternoon, I went in. My husband took me to get that done. And 2 days after coming back from my honeymoon, I got the call that you have breast cancer. And that poor radiologist who called me, I feel for him still because he was calling, what a job to have to call people to tell them that it is cancer. And I was sitting in my car and he called me and he said, I'm sorry, your results are in and you do have invasive ductal carcinoma. It's a breast cancer. And my first reaction to this poor man was, no, like I'm about to do a transfer. I'm supposed to, do an IVF transfer. Like I can't have breast cancer. What do you mean? Like I can't. Like that's, it just hadn't sunk in. I hadn't really. My focus was just on this, motherhood, and I just
probably a little bit of denial too.
Yeah. I didn't want it to be. I didn't want it to happen. I was like, no, like I've waited so long, the other surgery had just healed from and getting ready. And so, yeah, so my motherhood was delayed and luckily we caught it early. So I always like to share with women to please don't ignore your reminders, because I had no symptoms, no breast cancer symptoms. It was a normal mammogram that caught my cancer, and I caught
Uh-huh.
it early.
And how
So
old were you?
41.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was at the end of 2019. I was 41 years old,
Okay.
and which was the same age that of my previous fiance's passing. He passed at 41. So it was,
That really
I know,
stuck.
yeah. So it was tough. Luckily, though, catching it that early, I didn't have to do chemo. So what I opted for was a bilateral mastectomy, because I had already had some lumps removed from my right and the cancer was in the left. And I said, you know what? I want to do both, because I didn't want to take that chance, because I'd already had scars and surgeries on the right. So it's just made more sense to me to do both. I have my mom's sister, my aunt, she had already gone through the same type of breast cancer, and she had removed both. And she's doing great, and she's, gotten through everything. And I really leaned on her for some support, and I went that same direction. And so in January, let's see, no, it was the following month. So December of 2019, I had a bilateral mastectomy with reconstruction. So they put some implants in for me. And then after that, I spent a year and a half on tamoxifen. So what that is, it's the hormone blocking treatment that they put a lot of women on
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that there's no reoccurrence. And my oncologist at the time knew of my plans and my embryos waiting, and said, there isn't a lot of studies for women that have gone through breast cancer and how much tamoxifen or how long they should be on it before trying going through IVF. And so I was in this small little category. And he said, I'd really like you to do 2 years of it, and then we'll reassess where you are and look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't quite do 2 years. I did about 16 months of tamoxifen,
Uh-huh.
and I went back to him and I said, I really just at 43 at the time, I believe I was, I said, I'd really like to try. And he said, okay. He gave me the green light,
Mm-hmm.
and said, okay, you're going to get off of it. I believe it was in June or July. And he said, you got to wait 6 months. Now here's another,
Another
kind of
6 months.
another you have to wait 6 months after getting off of tamoxifen to try, because it's a hormone blocker that you've been on for so much time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it essentially doesn't put you in menopause, but it kind of, there's effects. I was
Mm-hmm.
still having a period, which was good, but it was, it blocks it blocks hormones to keep you safe.
Yeah. And your mental state during these 2 years, how was that?
I was frustrated. I felt, God, this is so unfair, you know, but I still did not give up hope.
That's great.
I knew inside me that motherhood was waiting.
Mhm.
And so in that respect, I guess that's probably why I nudged my oncologist a little more than, previous to the 2 year, to being done in 2 years. It was 16 months or so. And I says, can I get off of this and try? And like I said, he gave me the green light. I waited another 6 months. And so in December 2021, we tried our first IVF transfer. So I was 43 at that time, and I had a miscarriage about 6 weeks. 6 weeks after it worked, I did get pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a miscarriage about 6 weeks in.
Do you
And
remember any of your HCG levels?
they were really, really good. They were really high. It was a very big surprise. The miscarriage was a very big surprise to my doctor. He was very shocked that happened. And you don't prepare, you can't prepare yourself for miscarriage, but that was really, really tough on me. I just, another, moment of, okay, maybe it's not in the cards. Maybe this won't happen. But I know we had two more embryos, and I didn't want to give up. So my my fertility doctor said, okay, let's have a couple more regular periods. Once that has happened after this miscarriage, we can try again. So that's what I did. And my second attempt, well, the first, I'm sorry, I told you before we had the two boys, one girl.
Mm-hmm.
So our first attempt was a boy. And so the second attempt, we said, let's try for the other boy. And we did.
Did you try for the boy the first time, or was that just the best embryo?
They did tell us that the best embryo were the two boys, but he also said, if you wanted to try the girl, she's just as, I guess the numbers were just a tiny bit,
Okay. Yeah.
like he said I'd still have, great possibility, but we wanted to try for a boy, and we did that. We made that decision again, and my second attempt was May of 2022. And I was 44, and it worked. And I did get pregnant, and I made it through to, I want to say 36 weeks. He did come early.
Will you walk us through like your transfer and then your 2-week wait?
Oh yeah. That's so hard.
Yes.
Okay, well, when I did IVF, I did do acupuncture prior and after. So I kind of continued some of the acupuncture for a while. And then the 2-week wait was because I had just gone through miscarriage before, months before. This time I was a little more reserved in being excited, and a little more reserved in trying to get get my hopes up a little too much. I was just like, it was just different. It was a different process. I was more, ready, I guess, putting myself in that mental, okay, this could happen again. I could have another miscarriage, or maybe this won't work. And so I was more reserved this time around. I wasn't as anxious, and my numbers were good again. I mean, I got pregnant, and we waited a lot longer to tell people, because of the previous attempt. So yeah, we waited quite a while, except for our immediate families. But yeah, I mean, I don't recall. I know that I did test before the 2 weeks, and I saw that my tests were positive. I just,
do you remember what day? Yeah. Do you remember what day you tested?
No, I don't remember what day I tested. I remember he was transferred on, like, I want to say a Friday the 13th. Because the doctor was like, do you want to wait and do some other day? Because some people are a little weird about Friday the 13th. And I was like,
no, who cares? So what was it like getting that call confirming that you were pregnant?
It was bittersweet still, because I had just had a call like that, and it didn't work out. So it was like, okay.
Yeah. So what was it like getting past your 6 weeks?
That was probably more stressful than the 2-week wait.
Yeah, I get that.
Because I was counting that time frame, and I was counting, you do so much Google like searching, and you go through all these like, okay, what are the statistics? And I was looking all these things up, and I was kind of driving myself crazy for a little while.
Yeah, that's easy to do. But you saw the heartbeat at 6 weeks. Yeah.
All the anatomy scans, and every time we had such great, appointments, and it was growing, and everything was great. And it was like every time we went in, and we're like, okay, I'm sure all women feel that way. Is this all right? Is everything okay? And thankfully, he grew really, on time. He had all those marks, and I remember that anatomy scan because we saw his foot, and he would keep covering his face. He kept doing that. We didn't get my entire pregnancy, we got no really cute, like, facial shots, like cute little, like, because he was always like covering his face, but pictures. And yeah, it was It was really my family. I have a whole close knit group of female cousins, and they just really were my tribe.
That's awesome.
Sending all the updates too, and my husband was so excited, and he loves golf, and he was already like, oh, I can't wait to show him golf and take him out, and so
Yeah.
we were. I don't know if I mentioned before, Adam had not had any children, and either. He's 5 years older.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a first for both of us, for everything, for the entire journey. Like it's hard for him too to go through and see me go through miscarriage, and just his support and just not knowing what to do. And we were just all like just learning, like, and we had gotten married, and you think you're going to start this life together in a certain way. And for him to see me get that call about the cancer and then go through that surgery, gosh, he saw me go through so many surgeries just in the first 4 years of knowing each other, really.
Yeah.
So,
well, how was your pregnancy symptoms, and overall, how would you describe it?
I would say it went pretty well. I had a lot of heartburn, and I dealt with Tums a lot, and really trying to like take a note of what I was eating, not too late, or I wouldn't be able to sleep well. I did end up swelling in my feet and legs tremendously, like really, really, really swollen feet, where I had to order special shoes.
Oh
To get
no.
shoes on, those fun Velcro shoes, and the extra large socks. And I was still working, and it was really tough. We were monitoring my blood pressure towards the end there, and I was kind of teetering on preeclampsia. So my doctor was having me, monitor my pressure. And the reason why, and because of my previous uterine fibroid surgery, where they opened me up like a C-section, my doctor said, this is going to be a C-section delivery. Yeah. I knew that from way beginning that I was going to have. And so there wasn't really a lot of anxiety for labor. I didn't have that anxiety of going through labor. I knew it was going to be a fun. So we were looking at dates. And then as I teetered on preeclampsia, we said, let's try and get to this one specific date in January. And we ended up doing it like a week and a half before that, because I did like end up falling into a preeclampsia, like as we were monitoring. I knew it. Like I remember having that doctor appointment that specific Wednesday. It was January 4th. And we went in, and I took my hospital bag with us, and I said, I have a really bad headache. I know and my blood pressure is like all over the place. So we went in that morning, and he looked at everything, and he said, your son is over 6 pounds. I'm not worried about that part. I'm more worried about you right now. Let's deliver today. And I was like, oh, so we went straight from the doctor. Yeah. We went straight from the doctor's office to the hospital, like straight from one to the next. And they kept me in, and one nurse came in, and she mentioned something about contractions. I go, she must be getting me confused with somebody else, because I'm not having contractions. I'm just here. I'm going to do C-section. And then she left, and she came back, and they had all the stuff on me. And she's like, and I'm like, I'm not having. She goes, no, you are. She showed me the monitor. She's like, oh, there's another one. And I'm like, what?
Oh, wow. I do have a few more questions before we get to that.
Okay.
Did you use the same doctor that you used like with your fibroid surgery and all of that?
The fibroid surgery was a different doctor, but in the same referral like system. Like my fertility doctor wasn't a surgeon in that respect. So he referred me to another doctor who did that surgery.
Okay.
Then they also referred me to my OBGYN. So 3 different doctors in this situation.
Gotcha. Was there anything important to you about an OB?
I was really hoping to have somebody that had experience with older
Mm-hmm.
women. And so one of my first questions when I met him was, my age and, everything going to be okay? And have you dealt with, women in their 40s? And he's like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We just had, he started giving me examples. And I love to hear that, when you're in there and they start telling you, oh, yeah, we just delivered to a, 49-year-old or what have you. And, oh, okay. Then, your anxiety level goes down a little more.
Yeah,
So I
it
want
really does.
a doctor that says, oh, yeah, I've done this and it's okay. And there's women that have been older than you and you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was important. And we did find a good one. He took good care of me.
Yeah, good. Was there any product that helped you through pregnancy that you could recommend?
I mean, they had me take some specific vitamins, but honestly, I can't recall the name of them right now. But
Okay.
no, like I said, I did some acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not sure if I felt different after acupuncture, if it really made, too much of a difference, but it
Mm-hmm.
worked for me. So
Yeah.
they do have some doctors that really steer you to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
mine did. He really wants you to see this acupuncturist. She's had a lot of success. And I went to her and I, did that for a while.
Okay. And what about diet and exercise? Did you change any of that whenever you became pregnant?
I really was on the biggest mission to drink more water. I am really bad at that. I struggled with doing it. And it was just this regiment of, I would just forget. I mean, I don't know if you're like that, but I would just not think about it. And pregnancy was just like, you got to set a timer. You got to make sure you're drinking water. You got to, you know, more fruits, more vegetables, and I mean, I did my best, but definitely probably wasn't as good as what some women do. But yeah, I did some exercising. I walked. I I did a lot of trying to stretch, and wake up and stretch and really keep myself from getting rigid and, keeping that movement. But it was, I probably could have done more.
Yeah, I know we could have all done that, right? What about cravings or food aversions? Did you have any of that going on?
I ate a lot of peanut butter and jelly at sometimes. Like they would be these little like snacks that I would want. I said, because people ask me that during my pregnancy at work. They're like, "Oh, are you craving anything?" I'm just like, peanut butter and jelly sounds good, any time of the day. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, I'll take a PB&J.
Mhm.
But I don't really recall anything, specific or not wanting to. I remember having those lozenges when I would feel a little nauseated, like those lemon drops.
Mhm.
Lemon drops helped me with nausea.
Mhm. Is there anything else you want to mention about your pregnancy?
I remember my baby shower was fantastic.
Uh-huh.
And I had a very large family from Adam's family and my family that came together. And just the love and support of them, knowing what I had gone through to make it there
Mhm.
was such a beautiful day. And it was such a large group that I really just got so many supplies and so many, I mean, boxes and stacks of diapers and, just all these things I needed. And I, was ready to, oh, what's that for? I don't know what that is. And other moms around me showing me what specific things were for and how to use them. Because I didn't have breast tissue anymore,
Mhm.
I know I wasn't going to be breastfeeding, obviously. So there was going to be a whole other facet of formula and which kind and what's best and bottles, what's best bottles. And so I had a lot of those supplies too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you felt really prepared going into birth.
I felt very prepared. I was ready. We got the nursery all ready, which is where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Snoopy theme here.
Cute.
As two older parents, that's more of our
A classic.
Classic, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So we picked it. Yeah, I did feel prepared. I was ready. And with the swell that I was going through, the swelling I was going through, I was really ready to be done with that part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you went into your appointment at 36 weeks. You're staying, you got your hospital bag too. Tell us what happened next.
So as I'm sitting there and they're checking us in, I thought to myself, okay, maybe we'll do this tomorrow morning. I'll get all settled in my room and we'll be, this C-section will maybe tomorrow, maybe it'll happen tomorrow. And they come in with the suit, that white zip up suit, and they hand it to Adam. And they're like, it was about 2:30 at the time I was being checked in.
Mm-hmm.
And they come in and they're checking everything. And they're like, okay, we're going to do this at 4:30. And I was like, today? This is happening in 2 hours? Apparently my blood pressure had really started to go up.
Yeah, it was that high.
It was just, they said, yep, this has to happen today. And I said, okay. So he put on the jumpsuit and I took a video of him doing that because I was just like, I can't believe this is happening right now. I wasn't feeling any contractions yet. The screen was saying I was having them.
Yeah. So, and you couldn't feel anything.
No.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of one of my fears is that I'm in labor and I don't know it. It is a real thing.
So strange. I didn't know that was, possibility. In fact, so we did the C-section and it was after that I had contractions I was feeling. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in a lot of pain. I didn't realize that after you're having contractions because your uterus is
going down.
And so I was having contractions afterwards that I was feeling.
Well, walk us through the C-section. How was it?
I had given a playlist of music beforehand, one of those prep, they give you like, oh, what are all the different things that the hospital gives you this list of what are all the different things you would like. We gave a little playlist. I said I was very nervous about lactation nurses coming in that don't know that I don't have breast tissue.
Yeah.
I didn't want to feel that sadness and disappointment. I'm like, no, like keep having to say, I can't breastfeed. But they were really, really good. The hospital I went in. But it was funny because when they wheeled me in for the C-section, they were playing some crazy music that was not what we gave them. It was like some house doom. And Adam looked at me and I'm like, okay, like that's really weird. Like I wouldn't have picked that, but okay. So we had, I guess it was the anesthesiologist or one of the doctors that wasn't my doctor. It was somebody else who was playing some crazy house music or something. And so it was quick. I didn't feel anything. I was emotional we had the
sheet.
The sheet. Yeah. And so Adam stayed here with me and then they kind of pulled him out and just kind of poked him over the sheet so I could see his little face and said, hi, my baby. And so my husband was the first one to hold him and they took him to another area and he cried and it really wasn't a bad experience. It was, I hate to say easy because how that's,
sure. It's surgery.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't tough. It was kind of planned and went through it together and we got to, they wheeled me into another area after it was all put back together and I got to see him. I didn't get to hold him for quite a while, but Adam took care of everything,
Mm-hmm.
He handled the first nights, he handled everything and all the feedings. I wasn't able to, move around or do much. I could barely walk out to the bathroom and he was hands on, all hands on, new daddy.
Yeah. How was that first night? Did you have him stay with you that night?
Yeah, he stayed most nights until, yeah, I think he stayed every night.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How long were you in the hospital?
So we had him on a Wednesday. I think I went home Sunday, so it was 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
Mhm.
And how was your recovery?
It still took almost a month for my feet to come back to normal.
Whoa.
I thought in my head, because you don't know any better, I thought, oh, as soon as this baby's here, like I'll get my legs and my feet back. Mm-mm. I went back to the doctor. I don't know if it was a week later, and I was like, my feet, like, when is this gonna? He says, yeah, it's gonna take some time, and it did. It was like weeks until the swelling went
Yeah.
down. Mm-hmm.
And how was the pain when you got home?
I had already gone through that fibroid removal surgery. So I kind of anticipated that kind of, pain and recovery of being sore and having the uterus being, healing. And so it wasn't terrible, but, I would say I was really shocked about the contractions I was having afterwards. That was a
Yeah.
big shock. They don't tell you that. Nobody
Mhm.
says you have contractions after.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I had to still monitor my blood pressure, which went back to normal pretty quickly.
Oh, that's really good. What about formula? Which one did you go with? How did you decide on that one?
He was having quite a bit of, what you would consider red face and just felt like he was uncomfortable. So right away we switched to the gentle ease,
Mm-hmm.
Infamil gentle ease, and it helped a lot. And we kept him on that through, his first, 9 months, 10 months.
Now, is that just one you can get at the grocery store or something? Okay.
It's the purple Infamil,
Okay.
the
Gotcha.
purple one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had started with Bobby because I had done my research with Bobby, that formula that was created by mothers, and it's like a European formula, and it was high end, and I was really like looking forward to using that. And I don't know if it was just too much he just needed something more gentle, basically, gentle ease,
Mm-hmm.
because it just didn't quite seem like he was digesting it, well. He was having some issues.
Gotcha.
So I moved over.
And mentally, how were you during postpartum?
I was good. I am really thankful I didn't hit any walls in that respect. What I did was I got 5 months of maternity leave, which was
Wow.
great. Great job. I know. I had him in January. I'd worked right up into pregnancy. I had him in January, and I wasn't set to go back till May.
Wow. Now, did they pay for it or?
There was most of it was the state and the disability, short-term disability, and then it was family paid leave, and then my company gave me more time as well. That was I got I was getting like my 80% of my salary at the time.
Yeah.
And so knowing that I was due back at the end of May, I really looked at my savings. Me and Adam had a really long talk about how we're going to proceed. And I had been with the same company for 21 years. And I said, you know what? I can probably stay home for the rest of this year, quit my position, stay home for the rest of this year, and then look for a new job, next January. So I gave my notice and I didn't return after maternity leave.
Wow.
And everybody was very supportive at work.
Mm-hmm.
I had long-term friendships and very excited for me. And I did. I stayed home and I used some savings and I stayed home with him for his whole first year.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to go over about your pregnancy or birth or postpartum?
I, I guess like I just want to talk to other women out there and just always, mention that there's hope, if you're struggling with any topics, especially health issues, not to give up. I know that it's hard sometimes. It's hard to continue to have hope, but your body is amazing. Your body's amazing. I went through so many different surgeries and losing breasts, and I was still able at 44 to have
That's
my first
amazing.
child. We do have one more embryo, right?
Tell us,
Girl,
what's the plan for your last embryo?
because I'm now 46. So I still get that nervous feeling of, am I too old? So since Mateo is now 15 months old, we are going to possibly do another transfer at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my head's at right now. I want to get into some better shape the next, through the summer and really try to lose some weight and try to get myself more prepared physically. I think I could have done a better job the first time around of being more physically in shape. And when you when you're down on the floor and you're playing and it's time to get up and you're in your 40s, you might feel it more.
Yeah. Yeah. Just talk to
So
Shirley. She'll make you feel better
I
about your age
know
too.
watching Shirley work out, and during our workout sessions, it's like, you go, girl. I wish.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's amazing, and that's my plan, is to get into some better shape
Mm-hmm.
physically and possibly do another transfer later.
That's
Yeah, and I'll be
exciting.
46 and possibly having a second at 47. So we'll see. But it's nerve-wracking to think about, am I really ready? Could I really do it again?
Yeah.
But with IVF and having embryos frozen, it's interesting that, the fees are there to keep them frozen, and the options are interesting to think about. Like if I really couldn't physically do this, donating or destroying just doesn't seem right for us.
Mm-hmm.
Might be right for others, but we just can't see ourselves doing that with our
Yeah.
last embryo. So a lot of women, don't I mean, I've read somewhere that a lot of embryos just kind of get left, and women stop paying storage, or families start paying storage because they can't afford it anymore. And there's just these frozen embryos that are there at clinics that have, it's an interesting facet to IVF.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, we've had 3 previous guests that has been pregnant since their show. So maybe you can be number 4.
Yeah.
That'd be really exciting.
Back. Mm-hmm.
So what has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
Probably energy level. Thankfully, my husband and I are a little opposite. Like, he gets up really early and he's like early bird guy, and then he fades kind of towards the evening, and I'm more like able to stay up a little later and get my second burst of energy. He's older as well. He's 51 now, and so teetering on figuring out that energy, teamwork, getting things done and having to work together to figure it out, to manage our energy. That seems like it's lower. I feel like we're lower energy, but just making it up by, okay, I need to go rest for a bit. Your turn. He gets on the floor. We're throwing balls and, playing and opening books and turning pages while the other one is taking a rest.
Mm-hmm.
So I think energy level has been a big thing. And I don't know about you, but I'm a left-hander.
Me too.
it doesn't have to do with age, but what really surprised me is the way I have to hold him to feed him and the way I have to put him down to change his diaper. I have to do it so I can manage it with my left hand and clean him and do the diaper with the left hand. And then most people are right. And so they're handing him to me in the opposite way. And I'm like, no, you got to turn him. I got to have him this way, not that way. Because my brain, you might experience this when you have your child, because I've never realized, like, my whole life being a left-hander, it really didn't come into play at all growing up. I mean, yeah, you got, pen marks, and you had to, like, in school, you had to deal with being a left-hander in some aspects, but you don't really think about it. And then I have a son, and his direction and the way I hold him and the way people give him to me and the way I pass him is all left-handedness. It just has really become like a thing. Like, oh yeah, you have to turn him before you give him to the mom because the mom needs him over here. So weird.
Yeah, I thought about that with the diaper changing station that we put on the registry. I was thinking we're going to have to rotate it every time one of us, changes a diaper.
Yeah. It comes into play. It really does. I guess, from feeding to changing to bottles, I'm really like, I don't know, you got to have them in the right spot.
Interesting. I'm going to have to think about that whenever it happens. Is there
shout out to all the left-handed mothers?
That's right. That's right. Is there anything you recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth over 40?
Do your very best to be in the best shape possible, beforehand, before you go through your journey. Mm-hmm. I know I was told that, and I didn't probably get myself as physically, I could have lost a little more weight beforehand. I could have, started better eating habits. So I really had to jump into some of that. Mm-hmm. I didn't prepare myself as much physically as I should have, I think. But other than that, just if you can have that support team, whether if it's family or friends, it really makes, I think for any woman at any age, that makes such a difference. But I think when you're older too, it really helps with the physicality sometimes, and luckily I have a really great support system.
That's great. And what advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant if you could go back?
Start massaging their gums early, because I'm struggling right now with teeth brushing.
Oh.
I did not do any of what they say, massage and get your finger in there and do that. And even when they start little tiny teeth popping in, start doing that. I didn't do any of it. And we are he has a whole full set of teeth now, and we're struggling to brush his teeth.
Oh no.
Like, why didn't I do that? So I would give myself that advice. And probably, well, I don't know if this has ever been a topic from your previous guest, but I feel a little postpartum brain still going on.
Oh.
I don't feel as sharp anymore.
Huh.
So possibly I need, I'm going to start taking some more vitamins and supplements to try. I feel sometimes like still kind of foggy when I'm trying to do things. Or have you heard that? Like, women afterwards, they're not sharp, not on top of things anymore. Like, I'm just slower when I feel cognitively slower.
Yeah. And what about advice? What advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant if you could go back?
Maybe when I was pregnant. That's tough. Maybe not to worry us so much. I know it's hard to say that though.
Yeah.
But stress and being worried all the time and comparing yourself to others and doing too much comparison. Mm-hmm. I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
comparing his level where my son's at now, where he, maybe should be, maybe to do less of that and just really just find ways that help you relax a little more, take your mind off things, I think is a good way. Less stress. We all have so much stress though, don't we?
Yeah.
It's not one thing, it's another, my grandma used to say.
Now we have a lot of women who are trying to conceive over 40. What advice would you have for those women?
I can't give a lot of advice when it comes to conceiving naturally.
Sure.
Because I didn't go through that, but I would give the advice of trying to see all possibilities, making sure that your support system's in place, as a 40-year-old. Okay, so let me go back for one moment, because I remember going into each doctor's office, whether it was fertility, oncology, and OBG, all, my plethora of doctors. And every time I went in, I'm too old. Look at my age. Is this going to happen for me? And I always was waiting for them to say, yeah, you're older. And none of them ever did. So I think my advice to women in their 40s is to do your best not to tell yourself that you're too old, that this is not going to happen because of your age. And really to find out those doctors that give you that, no, you're not, this can happen for you. And let's not think about your age. Let's think about your weight or your eating habits, and let's think about exercise, and let's think about all those things. Let's not think about.
Yeah. A true diagnosis. Yeah.
And knowing that when you do IVF, for me, I did in 2018. And so the embryo stayed that age until I was ready to use them years later.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool, but I know that doesn't happen for everybody.
And where can our listeners find you on the internet?
I guess I have a public Instagram, and I did kind of put my journey on there for a while. And that one is Lolo_journey78.
Awesome.
I was born. So that was kind of where I posted my journey.
Awesome. Lorraine, thank you so much for sharing your story. It was amazing.
You're so welcome. I'm really glad that you have this outlet for women. It's just so important. If there's any women out there who are also struggling with breast cancer, post breast cancer, please don't, hesitate to reach out. And I'm ready to help anybody who needs any advice.
And that wraps up another great episode on Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.